Yeah, well, Maisie was trying to get my attention, which included sort of whipping her tail and her body all up. So, hello everybody. We've got worked out what we want to say. I've got your list here, Sandy, that we were looking at this morning. One
Right.
thing that we sort of realised just as we came on, it's a lady who's in messages right at the moment, and nobody realises how big this is.
Oh, exactly. And she did have some good ideas, but the ideas are, already in place, and they just, are not working on a big enough scale like they need to be.
Yeah.
People do not realize the vast amount of fake accounts that are on all of social media.
And of course, if we've got that many vast amount of fake accounts, we've got that many vast amount of people making these fake accounts. Because
Exactly.
we know everybody's got lots of them,
Hmm.
but still, you know, the the amount of fake accounts is off the scale now. It's worse than it's ever been. Um, and so you know, you can imagine the amount of people there are in the background to actually manage these accounts and do all these scams. So don't think, I don't know how we can get to it's not a poor boy in a bedroom.
Right.
This is organized crime. This is massive organized crime.
It is. And, we were looking earlier at how many smartphones
Yeah,
were just in Nigeria. And it was what, 15 million or 19 million? It was several million.
it was, yeah, 145 to 155 million smartphones.
Okay. So I was way under, but still that is,
Mm,
I mean, if you take in there's, over 2 million scammers, that's how many smartphones per
yeah,
scammer.
yeah. And what we often say, you see, when the scammer confesses, he's poor, he can't eat, mommy's in hospital, and he needs to pay the bill. This is the first time he's done it. His friends got him into it. There is a script for the confession.
There
Now, the
is.
thing is that and people fall for it. Most of the time, people will fall for it. Oh, poor boy. But if you look at the equivalent number of people in Ethiopia, which is Eastern Africa, the poverty in East Africa is a hell of a lot worse than in West Africa with Nigeria and Ghana. And you know, the I'm not saying everybody in East Africa is, you know, honest as the day is long,
Right.
but they're not scamming and they're not sitting there bleating that, oh, life is just so bad, you know, we've got to do this. No, it is a lifestyle choice. And
It is.
you know, I'm sorry that they are in Africa. I am sorry that, you know, if you watch closely to what they say, there aren't any good jobs. They don't say there's no jobs because they don't want to work in a supermarket or, you know, grocery store. Good grief.
Right.
They want to open their own business, which is usually a barber shop, which is weird because there's lots of them. Even in Ethiopia, there's like lots of them. And so you've got a situation where it's easy. Scamming, I'm sorry, but scamming is easy and they are making billions of dollars a year out of it.
Right. And if they took that billions of dollars and actually did something about the situation in their countries instead of just
Mm,
blowing it, their countries would be a lot better off. But
fantastic.
no, they're just blowing it on fancy cars and fancy clothes and devices and whatever else they can greedily get their hands on, parties, brandy, cough syrup.
Mm, yeah, lots and lots of drugs.
Mhm.
So, you know, so the thing is that you've got to know we're in a different situation to people out there because we deal with this every day. So we,
Right.
of all the people that we get every day, we get the same stories. So we know what happens. We know what's going on in the background, where you are one-to-one with that scammer. So it's completely different. What we were looking at this morning, yesterday got us talking about money mules again.
Right.
And I'll tell you a quick story. A woman in Croatia. And hi, Glenn. Woman in Croatia, and she reported her scam to the police in Croatia.
Mm-hmm.
And she was warned that the scammer was not likely to be caught because he's not likely to be in Croatia. But she kept saying, yes, but I sent the money to a woman in Croatia. So we explained that the woman in Croatia was probably another victim, thinking that she was doing her man a favor by
Right.
taking in this money and sending it on. So that's exactly what it was. So she went to the police. She had all the details. Hi, Karen. All
Hi,
the
Karen.
details of this woman because obviously she, she had a name, her address, everything. So
Right.
this woman told the police. This woman told, oh God. Yeah. This woman told the police that she thought it was her boyfriend, now ex-boyfriend.
Uh-huh.
And she thought she was doing him a favor. The woman's gone to prison for 3 years, 4 months. And
For
as
being
we,
the money mule.
yeah,
And she was unknowingly doing
yeah,
it because she thought she was helping out someone
yeah,
that she loved, or her boyfriend. And so whether you are knowingly or unknowingly doing it, it's still a crime. I know, I posted one where the IRS in the US arrested a woman, and she did get sentenced, but she helped launder over $2 million,
yeah.
and she got to keep a commission of $300,000. So that makes her part of the crime ring. She knew what she was doing.
Yeah,
And where she didn't pay taxes on that as income, the IRS got her for taxes.
yeah,
And I think she had a small sentence, but still, what
yeah.
about the rest? She only had to pay the IRS 100 and something thousand. So what about the rest between that
Yeah.
and $2 million?
And it was,
She should be liable for it.
yeah.
And honestly, the FBI ought to grab her for it.
And very often they don't know how much they've laundered because they basically have handed over an account or two
Mhm.
to somebody else, and the money's going through there. I mean, there was one woman, I remember we added it up while she was on with us a while ago now, the one that went back to a scammer, but it was nearly $750,000 that she had laundered, and she was shocked because it was just 20,000 here, 20,000 there, and not she hadn't added it up, but when we did, it was a lot of money. So
Right.
we will say again, if you're handling money for anybody, your account, your name, your crime.
Exactly.
Now, the woman in Croatia is very upset because she has the name of her scammer in Nigeria, but obviously that's no good. So she's very upset that her scammers got away with all of this. It's perfect crime.
It
Perfect
is.
crime.
And they get away with it all the time because they're not allowing any outside law enforcement to come within their
Yeah,
countries and arrest. But, where there's so many of them, you cannot always tell which scammers are hiding behind which fake accounts. They do make mistakes, and will give their email address, or even their address, their phone number, to where they can be tracked, but law enforcement really can't do anything about it.
no. No, it's very safe. They love it. I mean, who
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't, Um, so we've got to change the narrative on scams. We've got to change what everybody believes. And stop being soft. Hi, Candy. Stop being soft. You know, you've been approached by somebody. Now, we say this. I say this probably every day. If you get a contact, a friend or a follow request from a stranger on social media or on the internet, it's going to be fake. I'm not talking about dating sites. That's different.
Right.
I'm talking about Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Words with Friends, LinkedIn,
TikTok, Snapchat.
TikTok.
I mean,
Oh, yeah,
anything that they can talk to you. And TikTok is awful because they do not even remove fake accounts when reported.
not
You
at
know,
all.
at least Meta will remove a few.
Yeah,
Luckily, but those few that get removed, there's 10 more that replace each one.
yeah.
So it's kind of a losing battle. So we need to get people to understand, hey, that stranger may look nice, but they are contacting you for nefarious reasons.
And I did one this morning of names used over and over, and I did Steve Kaufman.
Yeah.
Now, Steve's been used forever. Absolutely. Hi, Candy and
Hi,
Lucy.
Candy.
Hope everything's going all right for the preparations. Um, and he's been used forever as poor Steve. But you go down, there's no end. I couldn't find an end to the list on TikTok this morning. I mean, I took some screenshots of probably 100 or so, but there was hundreds everywhere. And the same on X, the same on Instagram. It's just ridiculous. Really ridiculous.
It
But we get
is.
so many people coming to us saying, well, I looked at his name and I couldn't find anything. Now, the thing is, they will make a name up. You know,
Right.
you know, they will say, um, yeah, Glenn, I've got Twitter finger trying to report those ones.
Yeah.
Um, not even the Elon Musk's go on Twitter, but I forgot what we're talking about now. But um, yeah, if you look at a name, so you get contacted by Steve Fred,
Right.
and so you think, now you see the thing is that you should think, really you should think, Steve Fred, that nobody can be called Steve Fred. So have a look on Facebook and see who can be called Steve Fred, because I've got one here who is Stephen Fred. It's actually Aaron Din, but you know.
Yeah.
So he's a medical doctor. Aaron doesn't know he's a medical doctor. He also goes by the name of Mohammed Danish Yusuf.
Oh, is that in parentheses or is that an ad account?
It's in parentheses.
Ah.
So we've got Stephen Fred, and then we've got, Mohammed Danish Yusuf, as you do. And we've got Aaron Din, who is, Christophe is French Chinese. I should imagine Aaron is probably Chinese, part Chinese too.
Yeah.
But that account has 74 friends.
And how
And
many
there's lots of Steve.
of them are women? Can you see the friends list?
Yeah, 74. All of them. All of them are women. And
Mm-hmm.
some of them are African women, But if you have a look, there is quite a few Steve Fred. There's Chris Orbetz as a Steve Fred. I've not actually seen anybody called Steve Fred. But don't take anything for granted. Now, just because you put, Steve Fred and he comes from where's this one? Oh, London, and you put Steve Fred from London, you can't find him. Well, he must be all right.
Right.
If you've been contacted 100% of the time by a stranger on social media, it's going to be fake. Why can't we get that through to you?
Right. I mean, we get contacted all the time. Of
Yeah,
course, some of them
I think
contact us because we,
it's
post warnings on their accounts, but we still get contacted randomly by. I get a lot of Austin Scott Miller and Steve Townsend, and actually Mel was looking at my album for my cover photos on my account, and almost every one of them, which of course that's public, almost every liker on there was some type of fake account, mostly
yeah,
military.
yeah. Hi, And
So,
I've got a Steve Fred. I'm into this now. I've got a Steve Fred who's Karen Bickmas. All the usual ones. Um, Steve Fred. Come on, ladies, don't make it this easy. But yeah. So, have you got that list in front of you, Sandy?
let's see. We were basically talking about what to
The
look
one,
for.
yeah, the one
Um,
that it starts off. Friends and family can watch for several signs that might indicate their loved one is involved in a romance scam. Now, don't take for granted that because Great Auntie Maud has got a smartphone or an iPad and she's on it
thanks, Denise.
constantly, that it's going to be have you
Her
seen
cooking group.
yeah, or Pretty Puppies or Grandma Funnies.
Right.
Don't accept, don't assume that it's going to be so innocent, and Great Auntie Maud's having a great time. Great Auntie Maud needs to be watched carefully. There are several signs that might indicate they're in a romance scam, and they're red flags. I mean, we talk about red flags
Right.
all the time.
Right.
And they often revolve around unusual behavior, secretive actions. Now, we've had this before. Now, we had one old lady who went to visit her granddaughter, and the old lady kept going to the bathroom. And she thought, well,
Right.
I know grandma's getting old, but she doesn't usually go this much. But every time she went to the bathroom, she took a phone with her. So they managed to have a look on grandma's phone, and he was a guy on an oil rig. Are they being unusual behavior? Are they being secretive? Are there suspicious details about a relationship, and have they told you they're in a relationship or not? So we've got,
Well, I know
here's
there's
what
one
to
that's
look
really not
for.
talked about in that list, but if you've got Auntie Maud that is looking at her phone all the time and she's smiling real big or she's giggling
Mm-hmm.
or just she might be giggling at jokes, yes, but if it's a constant thing and they get to the point where they're glued to their phone,
Yeah.
that's really something to watch for.
Don't think that because Great Auntie Maud is 80, that she's not going to be in a scam, because they're right for it. Absolutely.
Exactly.
And we have more difficulty getting the 80-year-olds out than we do the 60-year-olds.
I know they're stubborn.
They are. This is my last chance of happiness. Well, no, it's not, because you're not going to be happy once this breaks up. So have you got the rest from rapid emotional attachment?
Yeah, rapid emotional attachment. It also is talking about avoidance in personal meetings. So the online partner is going to have constant
Yeah.
excuses as to why they cannot meet in person. And if Auntie Maud says, well, hey, I'm supposed to meet him for coffee, and then all of a sudden he's not showing up for some reason or other,
Hi, Mel.
that's going to be suspicious.
And also, they very often they'll, if say I am sat in New York, and the person who contacts me is going to be sat in New Jersey, and so that I'm thinking, oh, that's not very far away.
Right.
We can meet. Oh dear me! After a few days, he's got to go away to Syria, Yemen, on another oil rig. He's going to go to Turkey to build a hospital. If there is a reason that you can't meet, but you'll meet when he gets back again, but he'd still really like to stay talking to you, that's a huge red flag, because it doesn't
Right. And
happen.
I actually had a lady, and I'm sorry, she was, 80 something years
Yeah.
old. And she was in a relationship with retired General Bert Garrett III. Now, yes, he is retired. He told her he was retired, but he volunteered to go back to Syria with
Yeah.
the UN, and he is participating in patrolling.
Mm.
And I thought, he's what, 72 himself? And can you imagine him doing patrol with all these 20-year-old military guys? I mean, it's not going to happen. So, but yeah, I even asked her to go to the recruiter's office and verify all
Yeah.
this. And I checked back on her and she has not responded to me at all. So I am assuming that she is still in the scam. And it was her family that noticed certain things that came to us for assistance with her.
And it is quite difficult because we are saying one thing, family is saying another thing, and it's basically negative. And then you've got love you babe.
Right.
But a general, the as a general retires, I'll tell you something. Breaking news. The US Army's got other generals. So they
Right.
joined. Yeah, that's right. Can you imagine?
Yeah,
Um, I'd have to hold me back if it was me. Mel. I would have to hold me back to make sure it stayed in. Yeah, I mean, they have other they don't need to get generals out of retirement.
right.
They have generals coming up, and the generals coming up, have fitness tests, things like that. They're pretty good. We've got the next one, which is requests for money and gifts. Now, this can start off with a request to send the woman a gift. This can start off with, I'd really like to send you some flowers, honey. Can you tell me your address?
Right.
No, they might have got how old are you, babe? When's your birthday? So there's your date of birth. Put that with the address. They are going to be able to afford to spend $20, $30 on a bunch of flowers or a pizza. They've got your address. You think, oh, isn't that lovely? You sent me flowers, you sent me a teddy bear. They've got what they want. You've passed another test. You've believed, and you've given over this information.
Right.
But then they can start to nibble away at asking for money and gifts. So if Great Auntie Maud mentions sending money, gift cards, or cryptocurrency, we'll come back to that one.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it will start off small. It will start off as an iTunes card for the internet, or something very. He doesn't like the food.
Right.
And we should
And
go back to the bins, Glenn, to be
great
honest.
Auntie Maud might not be able to drive, so she might ask a relative,
Yeah.
can you drive me to Walmart or the dollar store or something so I can get an iTunes card for my new boyfriend? That is a huge red flag.
Yeah.
And
It is. I
it
mean,
is.
iTunes cards are things that you buy for your grandchildren. I know.
Right. Right.
You know. But you don't buy them for somebody who is a doctor in Yemen or a general or on an oil rig. You just don't. And
Right.
iTunes cards are making a comeback. Um, but then it might go on for, I love this one. They might go on for, they've got an emergency.
Oh, exactly.
Pain. We had one the other week where he dropped his phone over the side of the oil rig. He dropped his. Glenn, they used to have iTunes cards before. They used to be able to top them up, so they could, if you if you sent them a $2,200 iTunes card, so they could put a zero on the end. We know they used to do that. We used to load them,
Right.
and also the receipts you used to get with iTunes cards, you could often cash them in. Don't know if you can still do that because they stopped it at one time, so they went on to other cards. But we are seeing a big thing where the iTunes cards coming back. But you've got somebody who's quite important because they're never the man who empties the bins. They're never the garbage man.
Right.
They're never somebody who works in McDonald's. They are always somebody who's a general, an engineer, somebody really, really big. And he has an emergency, and he needs some money for medical bills.
And they use a child a lot. My
Yes.
child's in the hospital. My child's sick. We need to pay the medical bills for my child. And that really will tug on a person's heartstrings because, we all feel bad for sick children. So they do use that a lot. So that's another thing to watch for, especially if Auntie Maud's saying, well, his child's in the
Yeah.
hospital. I need to send him some money for the medical bills.
And we have heard plenty of times. Yeah, you see, Glenn, I mean, that's still quite common in Africa. Women dying in childbirth. Very, even today, it is still quite common. But of course, it isn't here. I like the way I've had a few where they died of sickle cell anemia, which is a blood cancer.
Right.
And that only affects black people. So they don't do the research. But I like the ones where, he's gone out, he's been shot, and he's on the table in the he's on the table in the army medical center, and until the woman sends the money, they're not going to fix it. Do you really think that's going to happen?
No, I mean, not at all. I mean, that's just it. Again, they create an emergency of some sort, and they won't take the bullet out of my leg, honey, until you send the money.
Yeah. Yeah. I also do like the one where they're hungry because they don't
Yes.
like the local food. No. I had a really good talk to a woman about this, and he was in Afghanistan and he didn't like the local food, but the American military bases, exactly, Candy. The American military bases, they have really good eating facilities, and they have cooks and they have chefs, and they take it all with them.
Well, and they have like your food trucks, Pizza Hut,
Yeah,
McDonald's,
McDonald's.
whatever the case may be. They do have that stuff. So if they don't like what's in the cafeteria, there's always those food trucks as well.
Yeah, they do eat Western food. I mean, that's why they do what they do, and it's the whole thing is morale anyway. But the chow hall, as Dustin calls them, they are very, very, very good. I've seen them obviously for our side of things. Honestly, the food we used to get in the Navy was ridiculous. It was lovely. It really, you never missed a meal in the Navy because the food was really good. I even went on the submarine that my son was on, and he's vegetarian, and they had a part of the larder store and the freezer, and it was all vegetarian sausages and burgers and things like that. And he said to me,
Hi,
"That
Gina.
in the corner is your son. That's just for him. He's the only vegetarian on it. Look what a nuisance he is." But they have to, you might be vegan, you might be allergic to something. They will cater for that. They don't need you to send anything.
Right. They've had
Um,
cooks. I mean, even my grandpa back in World War II, he was a cook for
mm,
the chow hall. So, they've always had
yeah.
something for them to eat.
So they don't need one. Um, Travel expenses.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big one. Nobody needs money for travel expenses. Can you imagine going to recruit in the army? Well, you can go. We'll send you away. We'll send you to Syria to fight. But if you want to come back, you're going to have to pay your own airfare. Again, think about it. Do you want to go into secrecies?
Yeah, we can go on to, and again, this is, secrecy about the relationship. This is another thing where, that lady took her phone in the bathroom with her.
Yeah.
And, they become defensive when you start asking them questions. You've already talked to them a little bit about what's going on, but when you start getting more in-depth questions and they become very secret, defensive, avoiding, refusing to talk to you, these are all signs to look for.
Scammers like to say, don't tell anybody about us. Sort it out when you're when I get there, they're going to love me. Don't worry about it. But don't tell them about it yet. You know, when you are a child or when you have children, you don't like your children to keep secrets because if they're keeping a secret, it's something that shouldn't be happening to them. So
Right.
you are when you are older, then really that that doesn't change. You don't keep things a secret because
No.
why would you? There's got to be something behind it if you need to keep it a secret. If you have a loved one, it's not a case you don't want to see them happy. It's a case you want to see them all right.
Exactly.
So,
It's safety.
um, so the person that you're talking to. So, say you're talking to Bert Garrett, and oh, this blooming cut's just come back. I
Oh
got
goodness.
I got rid of it, and it's just come back again. It really does love me, just doesn't want to go. Say you're talking to Bert Garrett. Now the thing is, Bert Garrett is actually a room full of people.
Right.
It's not. It's not one to one at all. You are taught because you might be in Kentucky. I'm in the UK. Um, they might be scamming Kathy in Australia. So they've got to be different people, and they all take shifts and they all take turns, and
Right.
so that they can work around the clock. So sometimes you might be talking to a different Bert Garrett than yesterday. Okay, the stories are just the same because they've made notes on you, but they can start to get a little bit inconsistent.
Right.
Um, it's things, yeah, it won't be candy, and also they gloss over it very quickly. So if they start to say something, like the wife had run off with the best friend or something. Oh well, sorry, I thought you said you were widowed. And that happens quite often.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot too.
Um, notice the inconsistencies and challenge them. After all, this is somebody that you have never met. Yeah, but Granny, Jane, an 80-year-old granny planning to marry a 30-year-old soldier. Can you imagine? You'd kill her on the wedding night, come on.
Pretty much. I mean, just if you are 80 years old, and I'm not saying this mean, because some are physically fit at the age of 80 and very healthy, and you're talking to a 30-year-old and you plan on getting married, think about this wedding night. What's going to happen? Is he going to look at, I'm sorry, we get old saggy skin, we get old saggy boobs, we get saggy
Oh,
butts.
I've got all saggy skin all over now. Even
Yeah.
me arms, I've got really, really old saggy skin. Um,
And a 30-year-old fit military man, he's not going to want that. I mean, think about it.
mm.
Even with the lights out, he's still going to be able to feel some of the sag.
And if I was to marry a 30-year-old, well, I'd have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to get my hair washed and my makeup on and everything before woke up at 8. It's not going to happen, ladies. So come on. Um,
Right.
you know, age is just a number. I'm sorry if they say that. Well, it's not just a number at all. In fact, age is your respect for yourself. Because if you've got to 80 or 70, because that feels like 80, uh, um, it doesn't feel as if there's very much difference between 70 and 80 now. Um, you need a bit of respect for yourself, and you're not going to have a 30, even a 40-year-old. Um,
Right. And Gina has made a point to look out for those that are housebound. And,
yes,
we do have a lot of elderly
and
family
you're right.
members that are housebound, which, I know my mom is housebound. And if I actually saw her over in the corner tee-heeing over her phone, I
Yeah.
would really be suspicious. But we also need to make a point of visiting these housebound people, because yes, we have our own lives. Yes, we are busy. Our children and even grandchildren maybe have their own lives, but still check in on Great Auntie Maud
Yeah,
and
always.
make a
Yeah,
point of it.
yeah. Because, you might think because she's got 6 locks on the door and she's got a ring doorbell, you might think she's going to be very, very safe. That's
Right.
fine. This is what's keeping her dangerous, not
Mm-hmm.
somebody trying to get in the front door. You know, age is just a number, but sometimes, Jane, as you get like me, it's a bloody big number, I can tell you. Um,
Uh, well, and we have actually told people, remove your family member's phone, but you can also get them a simplified phone that is not where they can get social media on it.
yeah,
They can still call somebody in case of an emergency or call and talk to family, but you can get one that doesn't have social media. So totally taking the phone away if there's an emergency, that's kind of a little iffy to me. But sometimes you do have to do the tough love thing and
yeah,
take it away.
and that's really difficult because you think about it. It's your parent. Your parent might be 70 or 80 years old,
Right.
and they're in too deep. And once they're in too deep, um, they are going to fight you if you want to
Mm-hmm.
get them. Yeah, I know, Jane. I don't think it's a big, beautiful number. I really don't. It's a frightening number. Really is. It's not a very nice number. I keep singing Summer of '69, which I know is not about a number, but that's just what goes through my head. Isolation from loved ones. Now, if you start to ask questions, and they have shown signs for quite a while of being involved, in on their phone, they will start to pull away from you, and they will, because
Yes.
they want to keep. Thank you, Jane. I'm not sure whether you think I just like a bloody look like a bloody old woman, but I'm still in. I don't know, Jane, but thank you very much. I'll take that as nice. Thank you, Jane. I'm still old. um, the longer it goes on, and the more they realize, especially if money's going,
Right.
especially if money is going, they will start to isolate from friends and family because they. I think it's very sad. We have people, we have lots of these, where somebody's a husband's died, and they've got quite a big inheritance. Now,
Right.
if you're 80, you think that, when mom dies, you are going to have a part of that inheritance. And that's just right, because that's the money that mom and dad acquired when they were together. And all of a sudden, that money is going.
Right. Right.
Now, you're not being awful by thinking she's giving away all my inheritance, because you've got somebody sat across the world who was taking all of your inheritance. And also the money that she needs to live on. And I can't tell you how many times we get where they will give away everything they have got. The lady who's going to marry Brian May, silly woman, he's going to marry me. She has given away everything she's got, and now she's selling jewellery to raise more money so that Brian can fly from the UK to her in America.
Well, and this is another thing to think about. If somebody truly loves you, they're not going to ask you to give them everything to the point where you cannot even eat and pay your own bills. The scammers do this, and
Yes,
they push and push and push, and they love it when you end up not being able to eat or pay your bills or get kicked out of your home
yeah,
or lose your car. They love it. So, watch Auntie May.
Well, Candy,
And
they keep saying that Brian May has got divorced from Anita. Well, we all
yeah.
know that he hasn't, Candy. We all know that he hasn't, because we all know that if he had, he'd be up here to marry me. So Anita is the luckiest woman, I was going to say in the world, in the UK, but I think in the world. But it's only because he didn't see me first. That's all. She's got it because he didn't see me first, and he doesn't know that I exist. But he's there. See?
Always looking over your shoulder.
Yes, and he is from the other side as well. He's from he has my crown on his frame over there as
Oh,
well.
so
So
you can look at him all day long too.
yes, from just about every angle. Yes. Um. Oh, I wish everybody could hear from us, Nickel, because we would basically what we hear. That's right, Candy. It is his loss. Basically, what we I don't know, what we want to do is to save everybody.
Right.
We can't stop scams. We just can't. That is a fact of life. There are too many of them. There are in an inaccessible country or area, and there's too many of them. All we can do is warn. And oh, actually, look, Brian, yeah, he's a bit young though, Denise, isn't he? Oh, is he one of the young ones? You see, I'm not quite sure about your country music ones.
He's probably what, maybe late 30s if I remember right. I
Yeah,
can't remember for sure, but he's not young.
yeah,
Um,
but
and he actually has quite a beautiful wife, if I remember
he
right.
does. I remember. Yes, yeah, she's the
So,
one with the really long hair, isn't she? But they all do, And then, can you remember that when that lady was in the relationship with the sexy doctor, and she wanted me to contact the doctor to ask him if he was really talking to her. And I said, he's not talking to you, so I'm not going to make myself look a fool. And I
right.
said, and anyway, I said that there's a big sort of double spread in this magazine in Italy about him and his fiance. She said, oh, yes, but it's fake. She said the fiance has arranged that to make it look as though they're still together. So, because she's found out about me, she said, and she doesn't like it. So she's trying to break us up. Now, this lady was my age, and he is about 45, and
Very good
he,
looking.
yes, he was a sexy doctor, I have to say. There was nothing that we could say to her that would actually get her out of this. And I mean, she's probably still talking to him. She says she's not. Financial strain or unusual transactions. Now, we get a lot where we get families because Great Auntie Maud has suddenly asked if she can borrow some money when they should have enough money to buy to buy their own food, or
Pay
to
their
pay for things.
expenses. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And
So, yeah, watch for them to ask to borrow money. And actually, I know a lot of families have put themselves on their moms or grandmother's bank accounts so they can
yeah,
see what is going on. But also, small cities or small counties where everybody knows everybody, you will sometimes get a bank that will contact a family member and say, hey, your mom is doing some unusual transactions in her bank. So if you hear something like that too, that's something to check
yeah,
into as
yeah.
well.
And I've seen people complain that the bank has questioned money.
Hmm.
Yeah, we should all be pleased that the bank is going to question this money
Right.
because there is so much fraud. Um, So we've got a situation where I remember there was a family lived on in a like a ranch house, and the other members of the family lived on houses on the property, and the woman, the mother, lived on a house on the property, and she had to come to her son asking for his permission to raise a mortgage on her property, which she'd never had before. And it was to pay a scammer. And she wouldn't have it, it was a scammer. It was a long time ago now. But watch for, just take more interest in a nice,
Right.
in the nicest possible way, because
Yeah.
not taking in interest is very, very difficult. You're going to throw them to wolves, basically. And sometimes they just want to sell things. You know, they want to sell their car, or they sell their jewelry, or the worst one. And I'll be honest with you, I really didn't like this woman, and I couldn't tell her that I didn't like her, but I didn't. That was the Australian woman. Remember the Australian woman that sold her two chihuahuas?
Oh, yes. Yep,
She
she
sold
sold her
her
dogs.
dogs because she wanted to fly to America to marry her man. And the things that she had of most value were two very expensive pedigree dogs. So she sold them. And then we had to tell her that she was in a scam and she wasn't going anywhere and there wasn't a man. So she didn't need to sell her dogs. But I mean, come on, you just don't. That leads us up nicely to approaching a loved one about a possible romance scam.
True.
And
And
this is hard.
yes, it is. And, I do have some family members that I will say, if you're going to approach them, say, mom or dad, I love you. I want you to be happy, but we just want to make sure it is with a real person. So would you please introduce us to him or her over a video call? Um, or, can we please meet him or her for coffee? Just kind of approach it, very nicely at first, and take an interest. Can you tell me more about your relationship with this person? Does he or she make you happy? You know, are 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 you sending gifts to this person, and are you sending a lot of gifts to this person? Don't be confrontational at first. There's going to come a point where you're going to have to do that, but at first, approach them with love, kindness, openness, and do it at the right point, maybe privately
Yeah,
instead of doing it in front
yeah,
of the whole family.
yeah.
You
So
don't sit at
I and be
Thanksgiving
calm.
dinner and
Yeah,
say, hey, Grandma, tell us about your new boyfriend.
yeah.
You don't do that.
And they do say pick a calm, private moment to talk. Now,
Mhm.
it's Pam tells the best stories about this. She always says to people, if you can't handle it quietly and calmly, don't bring the subject up until she has time to talk to them, because
Right,
you're going to lose your temper. So you're going to lose the opportunity to talk to them about it, because they're going to get very, they're going to get very
defensive.
uptight, very defensive.
Yes,
Yeah. And so, they're going to block you out. So you're going to lose the opportunity. So the thing is, you don't want to make the victim feel judged or attacked, especially judged, because you've got to do it in a way that basically how the scammers done it, got their um got them to trust them.
right,
And that's how
right,
that's how they've come to be in the scam. So you going up there saying, hey, Auntie Maud, who are you talking to? Who are you sending all the money to? Is not going to do it. We have lost so many opportunities to talk to people because family have had an argument about it.
right. And I can understand the arguments because
Yeah,
it is a very emotional subject. Especially if they can't even pay for their food because they're sending so much money to someone else. So yes, it can be emotional, but just take it very calmly and
Yeah.
quietly, and approach them with love, with kindness, with understanding. Tell me more about this. Help me understand this relationship. um, and then maybe get to a point where you show them a few facts, like off the FBI website and romance scams, or any pamphlets you might come across, or even send them the link to our page and our
Yeah.
Instagram, just so they can take a look. Quietly at first and calmly at first. And sometimes they will start looking at the red flags after they've seen some of the information, and they come to realize it on their own that, hey, I'm in a scam, and can you help me get out of this? So they can come back to you if they feel that you are not judging them and confrontational. So
Ask questions. Ask perfectly innocent questions, like, how
right.
did you meet? How did you meet? And oh, it must be really difficult not being able to meet in person, when you've got this great relationship going. So you might that might be the opposite to what you're feeling. But
Right.
but just chat nicely. Don't judge. You mustn't judge. You can judge in your own head, but you're going to lose them because the scammer is waiting for you as the concerned family to screw it up.
Right, because then
Because then they
the
can,
victim
yeah.
goes back to the scammer, and the
Hmm.
scammer says, "Oh, honey, I'm sorry they treated you like this, and I'm real, babe, and I love you, babe, and we'll straighten it all out." So the scammer will reassure them if you come at them confrontationally and put them, on the defensive, and the scammer's just he's gonna be right there, ready to
Yeah.
jump in.
Yeah.
And it comes to the point where, great Auntie Maud might block you and might block other family members, won't even talk to you. And we want to keep the lines of communication open.
Because it's so important. I'm not being funny when I say it's a matter of life and death, but at that age, sometimes it is. Um, you know, share, talk about it in general. Like, you've been reading about romance scams. Isn't it awful how bad you've got? Because we always say that if we can't get them out, it's lovely if we can know that we've convinced somebody. That is
Right,
absolutely brilliant.
right,
But we can't always do that because they might have been talking to this person for, and I'm talking about men and women here. They might be they've been talking to this person for a couple of years.
mm-hmm,
Might have gone on a long time. So you trying to say, oh, it's a scam, get
right,
out, is not going to work because they are going to feel that they know they love so well that it can't possibly be. But if we or somebody else can put a seed of doubt in somebody's mind so that they will go back and say, oh, Sandy's been on to me and she thinks you're a scam. She doesn't believe you're real. She thinks you're a scammer. I'm real, babe. Trust me. And all of this.
right.
And so, yeah, 2 years is nothing these
We've
days,
had
Jen.
them in longer than 2 years, and they are so hard to get out. Another way to approach might be, hey, mom, can you believe this really young, good-looking military guy contacted me on Facebook?
Yeah,
I got to looking into it, and come to find out, there's military romance scammers.
yeah.
And this is what I saw when I started talking to him, and bring it up as if you were in some type of situation that's very similar, but that you caught on to the red flags after you started doing some research. And even give that family member or loved one the research that you have done just for yourself.
And if we
And
can yeah, and as I say, you know, if the victim is so resistant and they don't want to know and they're backing off, that's fine. Just leave it. Stay calm. Try and be patient.
yeah,
Stay calm. Because at some point, I mean, let's face it, there is no good outcome to a scam. No good
right,
outcome. The
right.
person's not coming home. So it's not going to turn out all right. So, um, but you're looking at a lot of emotion that's wrapped up in all of this from both sides, to be honest. Um,
Right.
but if you can put some doubt in somebody's mind, because at some point in the future, even if the scammer decides to wait a few weeks before they ask again, they are going to ask for money.
Right.
And they are going to ask for money, or they are going to ask for favors.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we try is, if we can leave some seeds of doubt with people, once the scammer starts to act again as the scammer, um, it triggers something, and they can think, "Oh, I don't know. This is a bit funny. This, you know, could
Right.
there be something? Could there be something in this?"
Right.
I
And we're about to run out of time here,
Yeah,
but you know, you can offer to help. Do not give ultimatums like, I'm going to totally cut you out of my life if you don't stop talking to the scammers. That is not going to work, because they will cut you out of their life if you put them on the defense like that. So, you know, do show your concern, do show your love, do show open, you know, open mindedness, and do show that you are willing to listen. There is going to come a point where you're going to have to do tough love. When they come to you and they say, you know, I need to borrow some money for food, don't give them the money. Go buy them some food and take them some food so that they're not without. You know, if they need their electric bill paid, if you have the money to pay the electric bill, pay it directly. Do not give the victim the money, because it's going
and
to
also
immediately go to the scammers.
I agree, Jane, that you got a friend out for a scam by using reverse image and showing her the real person.
Right.
That's fine. We do that every single day. Then the victim goes back to the scammer and says, "I've been talking to somebody, and they've told me that your real name is Steve Kaufman. And oh well, actually, what it is, I know they're out there and they use my pictures. I know they do. I've reported it to the FBI and they're doing what they can, but I'm real, babe. I'm the real one."
Right.
They always have a way of talking you round. So,
Exactly.
it takes quite a lot of effort to get people out. So we are up for time now, because I forgot we started early.
Yeah, we
I'm go-
did.
I'm going on the thing. So thank you, everybody.
And we will
And
post this information on
mhm,
the page for
yeah,
anybody that wants to read it, because a lot of it is very important. We want to help our loved ones. So we do need to recognize the signs, and we also need to recognize how to go about helping them.
yeah, yeah, that's for another day, Glenn. The recovery scammers is probably going to be our next one, because I hate those with a passion.
Me
Um,
too.
and they're touting for business now. There's so many of them that I'm sick of getting people. I keep getting them on Twitter. You posted about a scam. Are you a victim of a scam? Did you get your money back? No, I'm Scam Haters United. Don't have a look. Um,
Right.
but yeah, even on our own Twitter page, I get them. So anyway, thank you very much, ladies,
Yeah, thank
and
you.
we will be back. We will be back next week, and yeah, I think we'll talk about the hackers next time.
And also, if anybody else has anything they want us to discuss on a live chat, please let us know. And we can go ahead and do whatever research needs to be done on that
Yeah,
topic.
right. Thank you very much, ladies. Thanks, Sandy. Talk soon.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.